I am the co-founder of an organization called ioby, and we work to build stronger, more sustainable neighborhoods block by block. And this slide was meant to say what ioby is not. And ioby is, it's kind of fitting, right? When the three co-founders got together and we all met in graduate school and come from an environmental background, and we were talking a lot about how environmental work often stems from something you don't want. You don't want pollution. You don't want a power plant next to you. And you talk a lot about NIMBY. And what we tried to do was flip that on its head. So instead of not in my backyard, it's about what do you want in your backyard? What are the things that we want in our communities that can help make them stronger and more sustainable? And we have another blank slide. This slide was meant to describe what we do, which I guess it's fitting that it's a blank slide because we are a word we actually made up, which is called crowd resourcing. And this combines a couple of concepts. And the first concept is crowdfunding. A lot of people have heard about this new craze out there where you can use the internet to pool small-scale donations toward something that you really care about. So that's one half of what we do. The other half of what we do is something called resource organizing. And this really comes from community organizing, where you can take the people that you're serving and they can help sustain you financially, and they can help sustain you with knowledge and experience from this whole community. I hope. Yay! I'm not sure if you can see this picture, but this is Shatia. Shatia is 26 years old. She's a resident of Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn. She grew up there, lived in the same house her entire life, and she is not an environmentalist. She doesn't come from an environmental background, but she would go to school every day. She would walk outside of her door, and she would walk by a vacant lot. And this vacant lot had a bunch of trash in it. It was pretty gross, and she saw it every single day. And one day, she decided, let's do something with this vacant lot. Bed-Stuy, where she lives, is a neighborhood that has experienced a lot of challenges that we have talked about inner city neighborhoods experiencing over the last few decades, including it's a food desert. And so what she wanted to do was to create a community garden that could help provide fresh produce to the people that need it. So she came to us, and we helped her to develop a sort of project out of this. And we helped her to post it online. And every single project that comes to ioby gets one of these. It's a project profile page. And it describes the project, and it talks about how much you need. There's also a budget tab, so you can see exactly where the money is going. You can see if they need volunteers, and there's a map to tell you exactly where it is. And this is how you can kind of communicate with the world. You can use this digital platform to help power offline action. So trying to use the internet to really move people in their communities to do something in their neighborhood. So she raised a little over $1,400, not much, and that's really all she needed to create a community garden 6 months later. And 2 years later now, she has been able to provide food not only directly to residents at little or no cost, but she's also started giving out food to nearby grocery stores at little or no cost, so then more people, their customers, can start accessing that food. She now has had a number of projects on ioby. I think she's got 2 on there right now in preparation for the next growing season. Oh, okay, I remember what these were. This was a map. This was a map of New York City. It had a bunch of drops on it to show you hundreds and hundreds of projects in New York City. So we piloted in New York to really prove, really see if we could make this happen. I'm kind of taking the advice of, if you can make it there, you can make it anywhere, and tried to really hash out this whole process. And then we went national last year. And this is a map of us going national. It should show about 50 little droplets on a map all across the country, because we now have ioby projects in over 50 cities across the country. And we're very, very excited to be partnering now with Miami-Dade County. Nicole Hefty is here, who is the director of the Office of Sustainability, and she has done amazing work with her team to develop a program called Greenprint. This is their plan for sustainability for the county. And ioby is an implementation partner as a part of this plan. So they have created a whole host of initiatives, and some of them are very big and some of them are very small. And ioby can help promote the initiatives that are meant to be community-led. These members of the communities can play an important part in delivering the results of this Greenprint plan. And ioby is opening its doors there April 5th and 6th is the big launch, and we are there to help really promote engagement between the community and this great plan that Nicole and her staff have created. So what types of projects does ioby do? It's a real host, a real variety, I should say, of projects. So we have things like community gardens, but we also have programs where you're talking about compost or coastlines or street trees or bike lanes, everything that's kind of under the sun that helps to make neighborhoods places that you want to be. The average donation to a project is really small. It's about $35. And we've been able to pool those donations to reach over $450,000 for projects all across the country. And what's been really interesting about this, and this is something that we didn't quite expect, but a huge majority of the donors to these projects live within 2 miles of the project itself, which is really great when you think about it, because this means the community is supporting the community. It's when people can go down the street and they can see the project that's happening right in their neighborhood, they might donate to it, they might volunteer, and they're going to feel more engaged in what is going on. And we've really seen this proven through when we're tracking the donations toward each of these projects. And the impact really adds up. It's a whole lot of small projects. And so we have been able to really take care of open space, that parks and parklets and vacant lots and pieces of sidewalk that really, when you brought together, it's 1,500 acres, which is about 20% bigger than Presidio National Park in San Francisco. We have stewarded watersheds that when you add all of those rivers together, they reach from Washington, D.C. to Los Angeles. And these are just people doing things in their own neighborhoods. Urban farms, we've seen the creation of 2 new urban farms a month, which is really exciting. Some of them are on the ground and some of them are on rooftops, depending on where you are. And people have been very engaged in supporting this work. When we first opened our doors nationally this last year, we saw a record rate of 110 donations a minute. Many of them were very small, but it was people donating what they could to a project that they really cared about. And so now as we move forward, what we've tried to do is really help this community of people that are doing things to learn from itself. Because not one of us is not the expert in absolutely everything. And so we have asked a lot of the project leaders that have done work on ioby to talk about what they've done. And so we've created a whole campaign called Recipes for Change. And through this, we have done a series of videos, raising urban chickens, how to install a rain barrel, and how to start a play street. And these were kind of the first 3. And this really helped to kind of break down barriers for people that say, you know, I've heard about urban chickening, which is so popular in Brooklyn right now. I don't know if this is very popular in cities where you all are, but when I told my grandmother that, she just laughed for days that chickens were running around Brooklyn. But it's true, and people are very interested in it, but they don't really know how to do it because, again, they are not coming from an environmental background. They just care about where they live. And so we're trying to break down those barriers. A key part of this also is telling stories. The environmental movement has done an amazing job at telling stories of very big open space. We know stories about the Amazon, and we know stories about polar bears, these charismatic megafauna we hear so much about. But we don't hear as many stories about what's going on at the neighborhood level in urban areas. Often because this work has been going on for decades, but it's never really been tagged as environment. It's often been tagged as community development or people just doing things to help each other out. And we want to help bring these stories to the fore and start telling them as a part of this broader environmental movement. And we really saw this come to life when Sandy hit. So a lot of the projects, especially community gardens like Shatia's, were completely decimated with Sandy, just utterly flooded. But what was interesting about them was that the networks that were created around those projects, not the physical work that they had done, but the people connections that had developed over time, played a huge role during Sandy. Because those phone trees became how people checked in with each other. They called each other on the phone trees associated with that community garden. And that garden became a place where they knew people could collect and start talking about how they would rebuild. And we saw this, and this was mentioned a couple of days ago, that first responders after a disaster are often the people who are in that neighborhood. And this is certainly what we saw. We also went to ioby project leaders. This should be a graph. And we asked them, what are ideas that you have for your community? You know your block best. And you just went through Hurricane Sandy, an incredible catastrophe. And you saw things happen, and you have ideas. What are they? And we tried to get as many ideas as we possibly could. And this was supposed to be a whole kind of breakdown of what the ideas were. And I can, on the ioby website, this is there, and the whole report is there. And there were a lot of ideas about green building, a lot of ideas about being able to do more renewable energy, especially in emergency situations, having emergency renewables. But there was also a lot of very, very small ideas. For example, having things translated in Russian in Coney Island. This was a huge barrier to a place that was directly impacted by Sandy. But because they didn't have a lot of instructions in Russian, a lot of people felt very excluded from the process and very frightened and very scared. And so being able to collect these ideas is something very much that ioby aims to do. And we are really hoping that as all of these projects take shape over time, that we could start developing a new type of stewardship. That stewardship isn't just about these huge, massive places. It's not about donating to the Amazon every year, which is still a great thing to do, but the environment is also the streets and sidewalks where you live. It's the hot dog cart in New York City. It's the soccer field. It is all of these places. It's that tree kind of growing up through the cracks of a sidewalk. And that if people learn about those, and they start to care about them, they're going to care about them for the rest of their lives. Wherever Shatia goes in her life, she's 26 years old, she may move away, her garden may not carry on, there's a lot of things that could happen with it. But for the rest of her life, she's going to care about that place. And she is going to be a steward of that place for the rest of her life. And this is what we're trying to do across the country, is to create a new type of stewardship where people are caring about where they are day to day. And so parks like this is completely strewn with trash. I'm not sure if you can see it. Oh, my last slide. This was a picture of a whole host of projects all across the country, full of lots of smiling, happy people that were very excited about what they were doing. So one day I will share these pictures.
Thanks, Cassie.
Thank you.